Y'all remember how I said her issues are with Maddie and not with Nate? Let's talk about it. Because how does she even feel okay walking around like that?
Well, she certainly looks the part.
And which part is that? The part of Nate's girlfriend or the part of Maddie? Or the part of being Nate's girlfriend as Maddie? So what we get to learn in this episode is exactly how much time they spent together as best friends. And it really always be the ones that's closest to you. And her issue is that Maddie's life wasn't any easier than Cassie's. Maddie was staying at Cassie's house because she was also dealing with parents fighting and dealing with a domestic situation. But Cassie has this complex where it's like, well, how come Maddie still seemingly gets whatever she wants? Well, it must be because Maddie's perfect, right? And if I could just be perfect, then I'll be loved. So that was the source of her closeness with Maddie. It really wasn't to be her friend and console her. It was to study her. It was to learn how to be perfect. Even when she's cracking, she still thinks, but if I'm perfect, then I'll be loved. And Maddie's perfect. So how did she learn this? How did she figure that this was the way to be loved? Maybe here. Maybe when she had to watch the person filling in the role as her father figure or the masculine energy in her life be totally incapable of driving because they're intoxicated. And she just says, let's shut up and smile about it.
I think that we don't trust him.
Come on, girls.
Well, you shouldn't trust him, right? But in Cassie's mind,
Come on, Max.
if I'm perfect, then I'll be loved. This is an instance of trauma manifesting itself into becoming a narcissist or an empath. And at the end of the day, Cassie is just a narcissistic bestie. She gets all of her validation externally and doesn't realize that Maddie gets most of her validation internally.
About Nate, this is about you and me and our friendship, and if you want to throw it away, then fine. Because I don't want to be fucking friends with you.
At the end of the day, Maddie has a pure soul, while Cassie's is clouded under all of this karmic narcissistic energy. Because here's the truth. Cassie was never Maddie's friend. When you have a karmic friend like this, that person is never your friend. They're an op. Okay? It's this scene, along with many others, that highlights how Nate's parents created a sociopath. And that's really not a judgment on Nate. It's just the reality of what happens when you have two parents who are deeply narcissistic. And when I say narcissistic, I mean that on the spectrum between narcissism and empathy, they exist higher on the side of narcissism, right? And both of his parents do.
I don't believe that for a second. Because when he came in here, being a man and marking his territory, I don't know, whatever the fuck he was talking about. I looked at Aaron and I looked at you, and boy, was there a difference.
It's interesting that his mother can easily spot that he reacted differently than his brother, but has absolutely no idea how her 8-year-old son turned quote unquote dark, in her own words.
Have the bad qualities of your father and none of the good qualities.
Okay. Right, so Kyle's a fucking saint now.
That's not what I said.
She's very aware that her son is angry and blames him for it, and does so in this segment.
Somehow, some way, we raised a child who's even more deeply flawed.
So in Nate's life, he never had anyone respect his mind or his body. He learned from his masculine figure that whatever you want, you take. And he learned from his feminine counterpart that you don't actually have to take any accountability for anything that's going on in your environment as long as you present perfect.
Because your fucking dumbass dad didn't believe in therapy, so self-reflection's off the table.
The biggest red flag is when she co-signed Cassie over Maddie. This is a woman who doesn't believe in accountability. So of course, she's going to not like somebody like Maddie who continued to hold Nate accountable. This is why Nate acts like a sociopath. And I say acts like one because at the end of the day, he does have a conscience. It's just deep down. But because he's not at a place where he's ready to look at this in his life, this being his soul journey, this being the generational trauma that he needs to break, he actually manifested a karmic relationship. Cassie will stop at nothing to preserve this connection with Nate, and she will be exactly the kind of woman that his mother is. Sometimes karmic relationships come into place not necessarily to teach us specific lessons, but to show us that what we think we want, we don't actually want, or what we think we need, we don't actually need, by giving us the exact thing that we asked for. This is how you unconsciously repeat the same negative patterns in relationships as your parents, because can't you just see Cassie saying this one day?
I mean it. I used to be fun. And I know you don't believe me, but I was fucking hot.
I believe you.
By now, from this dream and even scenes from the previous season, we've all come to the astute conclusion that Nate was assaulted by his father. Who remembers this? After leading the football team to victory at the end of season 1, Nate is approached by his father, where he is immediately criticized for the way that he ran the game.
You need to take a step back, Nate. I said take a step back.
Please! Huh? Oh, you think you're tough now, huh? Huh? Come on, Nate.
It's safe to assume that the only characters in Euphoria that we know that have been truly victimized by Cal Jacobs are Nate and Jules. These two share a trauma bond as they were both abused by Nate's father, Cal. This trauma bond seems unconscious because I don't think that Nate views Jules as anything less than a woman. But the mere fact that she is a trans woman means that he doesn't have to recognize the feelings that come from having been abused. Remember what Maddie saw in Nate's phone in season 1? Do you think that Nate has any understanding of what came first? In his mind, he probably doesn't understand if his arousal responses to masculinity came first or the abuse. But with Jules, it's not something that he has to reconcile.
What do you want?
First, to apologize.
I'm not interested.
You didn't deserve it. No, I was trying to protect somebody that didn't deserve to be protected.
Up until this moment, Nate had done pretty well stuffing down his abuse. He was finally stepping out of the Stockholm Syndrome of protecting his father and was successfully distracting himself with Cassie until this scene in Lexi's play. And while she was making a lot of really valid points, it was almost like Nate was being assaulted again, but in front of the entire school. What I love the most about Kat's story arc is it really highlights the benefits of a karmic connection. Because when you're a girl like Kat and you were already othered, meaning society has already deemed you categorically unwanted because you're plus size, because you're a tall woman like me, or because you're black, you're just supposed to be happy that some guy chose to be with you in the first place. And it almost never occurs to you that you could actually want more and that you deserve more. You can want to be stimulated. You could want to be challenged. You could want some spice. And most importantly, you have the right to want these things. Did Kat break up with him like shit? Totally, because she was not prepared for this. People don't prepare other girls for this. But karmic relationships can. She may look back and wish she handled this differently, but she'll never look back and regret the reason why she broke up with him. She may even look back and think of all the nice things that he did for her and want some of those same qualities in someone else. But that didn't mean that she had to settle for him.
What did you do? What did you do? Where the fuck are they? What did you do with them? We flushed them down the toilet.
You are fucking dead to me.
You don't mean that.
I fucking mean every fucking word. You're dead to me, Jules.
I don't believe you.
You and me, we're fucking done.
It is fucking true. It's all about fucking Jules, right? And you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You just act all fucking innocent. Like you're this fucking sweet little angel, this innocent, sweet little fucking angel who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. You know what the fuck you're doing!
The relationship between Rue and Jules is highly indicative of a twin flame connection. While I don't think we're going to be able to see their relationship play out long enough to confirm that, I do want to talk about the ways in which it's playing out before our eyes now. The soul lesson playing out between Rue and Jules could only be happening between the two of them. Unlike what's happening between Cassie, Maddie, and Nate, that's karmic. For Cassie, it could have been any pretty best friend and any hot guy. But for Rue and Jules, it is only them. Only the two of them can plunge to the depths of each other's psyche the way that they do. When Rue told Jules that she loves being loved, I promise you that is going to be a theme in her life that she's going to be trying to break down from this moment forward. But at the same time, the reason why Rue is so furious and betrayed by Jules is because as a divine masculine energy in this connection, she had a certain perception of herself that she loved being seen through Jules's eyes. And this perception is shattered in this moment where Jules plunges to the depths of her psyche and calls her out for exactly what she's doing and exactly who she is. Ellie is just third-party collateral damage. This relationship even reminds me of the connection had between Ariana Grande and Mac Miller. Hang on, stay with me. In recently looking at their tarot, I pulled the 47 timeline jump card. 47, which is an 11, a twin flame number. And this is that moment, this episode, where Rue and Jules have the ability to jump timelines. But Rue makes her decision. I think that decision will make it so that we never find out what really happens between them. Nevertheless, the period of separation commences. So many of you have been asking what shadow work is, and this conversation between Rue and Lexi highlights the way shadow work and doing it, or lack thereof, presents itself differently in masculine and feminine energy.
I've been through a lot. And I don't know what to do with it. You've been through a lot and you know what to do with it.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, Lex, look what you made. I don't know how to do that.
Rue looks at her issues through a masculine lens, which is ego-centered. She thinks she is the bad things that happened to her. She thinks she is her mistakes. And most importantly, she thinks that there is something that she needs to do, specifically like a list of things, in order to overcome them. But instead, she needs to lean into her feminine energy and be. Not do, be. And this shame that she carries with herself is why she couldn't make peace with Jules in this moment, because she's still looking through her ego self instead of her real self at the soul level, which divine feminine energy is inherently connected to. Lexi, who's the most advanced divine feminine energy on the show, does her shadow work by being. She looks at herself introspectively and then uses what she finds to receive lessons. Through those lessons, she allows herself to feel, and then from those feelings, she then creates. And that is divine femininity. Part of her journey is learning how to step into her autonomy and be self-confident and know exactly what she's doing and not need anyone to validate that for her. And that comes from her tapping into her masculinity. See, everything is about balance. One of the saddest realities of the season finale is the fate of what is going to happen to the deep soul connection that she has with Fez, who is arguably the most advanced masculine energy in the show because he's connected to his feminine energy.
Like, say if I like a girl, I want to find out what she's about on my own, you know? I don't want to Google the scraps. I want to peel back the layers. Do the most, though, like, we don't really have nothing in common.
That's not true. We both have the same sense of humor and are empathic and curious.
And like a true divine feminine, she was absolutely correct. Hopefully in season 3, we'll be able to determine if they are in fact soulmates or twin flames after Fez overcomes a mountain of karmic ties.